Welcome to your Daily 5 for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2023. I had to actually look this up. I didn't realize how long ago I had posted my co-op review of a video game called Super Mega Baseball 3, but it was just over 2 years ago, actually. I thought it was less than that. I thought it was like a year and a half, but no, it was 2 years ago. And I had talked at that time how my wife and I had started playing this game, which is essentially a arcade baseball simulator game. It has simulator elements where you can have a franchise and seasons, and if you're not into baseball, you might as well just skip this 5 because it won't appeal to you in any way, probably. But it is both a very deep game in terms of what it does in simulation, but it is also this is 3 I'm talking about, also a very silly and kind of over-the-top arcadey experience, and has what many reviews pointed out that is retained in the new version, probably one of the best difficulty systems that any game I've played has, where it is a 1 to 100 number system that you can adjust in single-digit increments that, as you go from 0 to 100, the game's assistance of what you're doing lessens and lessens. So you now have to fill in some areas where the game was playing for you, and that you can take as long as you want with that. You never have to adjust it at all. You can always leave it at 0. You can put it at 100 and really make the game extraordinarily difficult. But I think it's such a wonderful way to let people kind of experiment, because if you set it too high and realize now it's too tough, you can always back it back down. There is no penalty, as far as I'm aware, in any way for adjusting that number. It just allows the game to scale to your difficulty, and we had a great time with it. And so when they announced that there was going to be a new game, Super Mega Baseball 4, I went, okay, I'll wait until I see some reviews of it, but this is almost surely something we're going to buy because we like the third one, so we'll try this. Although in the meantime, I had seen that the developer, which is Metalhead Studios, I believe is the company's name, was acquired by Electronic Arts, or EA, which, if you know anything about video games, is generally never a good sign. But the reviews that I saw said, no, it's still basically the same game. You know, it's not necessarily a huge upgrade. They didn't change a lot of things. But in my case, I was actually okay with that because I wanted largely the same game with some graphical polish, maybe a few new features, but I did not want a retooled game. I certainly was worried that it was going to become a live service thing or whatever. And it does have a bit of a DLC element to it, but honestly, it's one that you could really easily skip. And so I went ahead and purchased that, and my wife and I have been playing it. And in many ways, and I think in terms of how my wife experiences it as somebody who doesn't play a lot of video games, I don't think she notices much of a difference outside of the umpires are far funnier. They really did a good job with the umpire voices. They are, in many cases, hysterical. But, so she's not really noticing some of the things I am, which make me wonder if Super Mega Baseball 5 is going to be a game where maybe we're not going to play it. Because even though the game is largely the same as before, you can definitely, if you know what to look for, you will begin to sense the EA scope creep thing happening. Now, the DLC by itself is one indicator. That, to me, feels like a pure EA insertion. But there's other things, and they're very hard to quantify. It's not like there's any one thing that you look at and go, uh-oh, that's EA gave them a note to do this. But there's lots of little things. For example, the selection and the way that music is handled is pretty bad. It's very clearly EA trying to say we want to have a hip sports game with music and a radio station announcer that is utterly unnecessary and adds nothing to the game. It's little things like that all over the place. The way that they're putting real baseball players into it, and they really want you to use those, which my wife and I have zero interest in. We like creating the custom teams and playing with wacky characters, so we have no interest in any of that. But that feels like the setup for, okay, in the next version, now you're going to have to pay if you want to play with the players you really like. Like, that's clearly what they're seeding the ground for is, oh, get used to playing with these famous players in these cartoony forms, but guess what? Next time you're going to have to pay some money for, let's say, I don't know, Hank Aaron and Aaron Judge in a pack for I don't know, just as an example. You can see all of it. And when you play the game, like I said, there's nothing, and there's little things like that all over the place that none of them are bad enough that they make the game. I've seen some harsh reviews. I wouldn't be quite that harsh. I still think it's a very fun game. It retains all the stuff that's actually important so far, but it's all on the fringes where you start to see EA's fingers starting to creep in. You start to see, oh, okay, in 1 or 2 versions of this game, it might be unrecognizable, which is really a shame because I think it's a very fun game, and it still is in version 4, but I don't know how long that's going to last. Later.